Ready? Welcome. I'm here in the studio. Relaxing tonight. Last night, just as I'd finished my talk with all of you up at the park, an interesting thing happened. A completely rogue hail cloud, when it's 85 degrees, came my way and washed me out. But interestingly enough, nothing got ruined. So today, everything was drying out. Everything's good. No worries. Hey, Jordan, what's up? So there's been a lot of talk on Facebook. First of all, I just uploaded all the events so far that I can officially announce for 634. So if you guys are interested in checking out what's going to be happening in the next couple months, go over to the 634 Facebook page. And you'll see we've got some workshops for health, gut health, and a really great concert that's coming up. That's going to be October 7th. So that's really good. So I'm on YouTube. I'm finding out about what's really going on with certain friends of mine that are involved in the citizen journalism movement, which is fantastic. And, it's like there's two sides to it all. Fear-based, constant fear-based, like the world is going to end. And then there's also the solution-based on how can we positively counteract all this, the different things in life that we don't want to go along with. So I've posted on YouTube certain comments. It's weird because I used to be really, really private. But now I'm just like, F it. I don't even care anymore. Let's just really get it out there. And maybe people will start realizing that there are more than just trolls on the internet. But anyway, so Jeff Berwick, who is head of the Dollar Vigilante, if you've never heard of him, he likes to call himself an anarchist. He's a capitalistic anarchist, and he's got some really cool ideas. So check him out on Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Berwick. So I've been following him for a few months and learning about this whole cryptocurrency, and also he's been going on this really cool journey of detoxing himself, his body, mind, getting into a really positive space. So in one of the videos, just randomly, he was talking about fear, It's really, really hot out here. So sorry, I gotta take drink breaks because, I don't know, it's just really hot tonight. I'm on the third floor with no AC. So he was commenting about, the whole concept of how people really do create the reality in their own minds based on fear or based on faith, based on love. And he was talking about how when he was wrapped up in doing a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking at the time, and he was really depressed, his whole base in thinking was worrying. So when he was talking about this during his walk, and you can actually check it out on his YouTube page, it's really cool. I mean, because you'll see him talk about his concept, what he believes is cryptocurrency, and you can learn all about Bitcoin and his professional life. But he's also opened up a whole other side, which I think a lot of us are doing now. You've got your one side of you that you put out to the world professionally. For me, that was art. But you hid a lot privately. I mean, at least I did. I didn't like that. But now a lot of us are just like, let's just be real and be honest. What's happening in our world? This is me. It's not just an image or a picture that you can create your own reality of what you think I'm about. So anywho, there he is going on his morning walks with his dogs. He's talking about worry and how all these different actions that he kept creating in his life that were making more misery was based on this idea of worry. So I just made this comment on his page, and I was like, well, worry is just negative imagination. It's not real. Fear is not real. And I know fear, I definitely get myself into that too. But some guy just literally 15 minutes ago just replied and said, well, Kim, then what would you consider positive imagination? And I had to think about it for a minute because I never thought of imagination as necessarily having to be explained as positive or negative. I always just thought imagination was just awesome, positive, And so there wouldn't have to be a secondary, like, validating description of that word to make sure that you knew it was positive. Like, for me, I just didn't understand that. Hey, Tony. But it kind of gave me pause for a minute. I'm like, well, how am I going to respond to this? Because I don't want to, I mean, you got to be really careful when you're typing things on the internet, because, I mean, you can write something so innocuous and someone, like, reads it like you're an asshole. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to do that because I knew I didn't know this person. I knew that he didn't know me. So I'm like, well, how can I respond in genuineness without, like, him missing the mark on what I meant to say? And so I thought, well, I guess you could say, I use guess so I don't sound like I'm being, like, demonstrative or like, I'm the owner of all knowledge of the world. Some people seem to think I come across like that. Hey, I'm just convicted in my thoughts for the moment. Everyone should be. But I said, well, I guess the way I would have to describe positive imagination, if we had to, like, use that word, well, it would be based on love and based on faith. So then, moments later, I go back to my little world, and I go back on Facebook, and Ray Potter popped up. Hey, Cameron, tell Crinny I said hi, and I hope she's recovering all right. My little cousin just went through nose surgery. That's no fun. But anyway, so then another person on Facebook posted something about cryptocurrency, what the goods, bads, and uglies about it. What's up, Franklin? And the interesting thing is, there goes the synchronicity. So first there's imagination. Okay, that's the issue. Then there's worry, which is an issue. And then there's the idea of faith. And then there's this idea of money. So all these different things within like 15 minutes are popping up in my feed. And there's a connection to all of that. And there's also a connection to abundance. So in Ray's post about money, he was saying, cryptocurrency can only go so far. We really, and I just posted it in the post below. So, I read it once and I was already inspired. So I'm not going to be able to say it verbatim, but I can paraphrase. Basically, the idea was, and you can read the real thing down below in the post before this live feed. It was like, we need to have faith in each other. Any contract or social contract or any kind of exchange that we have with each other needs to be the value. We need to really value each other. The currency is just the physical way to trade that, whatever that is. But it really comes down to, no matter what kind of currency we're given or we accept. I mean, because right now the fiat money is about to just implode. I mean, I don't know if you guys are following this at all, but I mean, it's either going to go to like crazy inflation where like you're trucking along $100,000 to get breakfast at Pamela's, if you know what I'm talking about, or I mean, it's just going to get pulled to the point where we're just like, okay, do you want to trade that painting for some bread? Because that'd be cool. Or it could also go into total cryptocurrency. But the fiat money is at its last leg. So what do we do? And what was really behind fiat money? It's imagination. It always goes back to imagination. We imagined up the belief and the faith in paper money. We create everything that is around in this world is imagination come into reality. That's all it is. But if we lose faith in it, it all crumbles. If we lose faith in each other, if we lose faith in the system, if we don't trust the system, if we don't trust each other, that's what breaks things down. The disrespect of each other. In other words, I mean, look at where we're at right now, where we've got the Walmart mentality, where these few people at the top look at the rest like they're cattle, and we look at each other like we're cattle too. So, hey, let's give all of our money to these big guys and pay top dollar, but we treat each other like, let me get that for $2. Let me trade them. Let me see if I can get a steal from them. I think that mentality has pretty much destroyed our economy. And it has nothing to do with finance and all that other crap. Those are just derivatives. The idea is we imagined money. We had a value to ourselves and to each other. At one point, it was probably really high. And apparently, there are people in the world that still value themselves very, very much, where they think, well, they don't get up for more than, less than, I don't know, $25 million a day. And they don't do many things that are different from you or I. But they value every moment of their time, and they make sure they get it. How did they get that? They have faith that if they believe they're going to get that, they're going to get it. That's all it is. And they're really strong negotiators for it. And I've met some very, very wealthy people that they're no different from you or me, but they take their work real seriously, and they take their social contracts and their agreements and their negotiations very seriously, and they really value each other. So when they're negotiating, they're not saying, well, I'll take this for $2 and I'll value you at $4. They say, I'm going to take this for $25 billion. I'm going to value you at $250 million. And they make it happen. But we're not taught to do that with each other on the lower level. We're taught to always feel paranoia, live in a fear-based reality, always feel like we don't have anything, always feel like we're in poverty, make poverty-based decisions. And maybe that's why we're at where we're at. Right now, the Dow Jones is bigger than ever. But I don't see the average person making $250,000 a year like it should reflect. Do you? And here's another thing. Why is it that with all this future technology and future well, at least it's like this in Pittsburgh right now. I don't know about Jacksonville or Los Angeles or whatnot, but there's a huge push for, there's rentals going up. Tons and tons and tons of rentals. And they're going for ridiculous amounts of money. Is the future rent? And then you've got the push for not owning your own car, that it would be more convenient to just Uber all the time or lease it, but then you lose your privacy. And in the long run, what now seems to be a convenience, what if it would cost $80 to just take a cab to rent it rather than own your own? And it's the same thing with a house. At least with your home, you have your own privacy and you can do what you want. There's a value to that. But we're being taught the poverty of renting. And renting, not only renting, but renting at higher levels than it would be to have a mortgage. Could we imagine a different world? I do. I imagine a world where it didn't have to take money to exist, in the sense that we didn't push people to constantly resell their homes for bigger homes. That 25 years ago, the people that had really gone through that first post-World War II pushed for owning their own home, they had pretty much paid off their homes. And they would have been they wouldn't have had to pay. But the 80s pushed the whole greed thing. Well, you don't want your ranch or home. You want to upgrade. You've got money now. Your house is almost paid for. So, why don't you take that money and you get a bigger home? Why don't you do that? And don't have your kids live with you, because that's not cool. Your kids need to go and do their own thing and spend their own money and go take their hard-earned money into rentals, or make them buy their own home. Don't have them. Don't work together to create wealth in your own family. Don't do that. That's tacky. That's cheesy. There's something wrong if you've got like 3 generations living in the same house. That's kind of weird. Don't you remember that kind of feeling? The smart ones did it. The smart ones didn't listen to that stuff. But there was a push for that. And I remember when I was selling homes, there were a lot of people that already had their homes paid for. Can you imagine living in, I think what it really comes down to, and I'm just going off on a tangent because from that example, but can you imagine, so many more better things than what are happening now? Could you imagine not necessarily having a job that you hate, that's fear-based, but you're able to go out every day into the world and truly do what you love to do, and it actually creates abundance because the economy is based on what you bring to the world that brings joy, rather than right now we're in a pyramid. The reason why everything's so jacked up, and you literally have kids thinking, how sexy can I be to becoming a commodity? You literally have kids some in the world that are selling their organs, whatever, as many as they can get while they can still live, for their parents. This is happening. Why is that? Because the fiat money, the people that are in charge right now, are straight up insane psychopaths that have set a precedent of trickle-down economics based on war, crime, drugs, and sex trafficking. Everything else has become a derivative of it. That's why most people feel like shit with their job. That's why most people don't feel like they're actually doing something truly good in the world. I mean, even the healthcare system. Have you met nurses? I'll tell you what, some of the nurses I've met, and they're psychos. Total psychos. You get on their Facebook and they're like, we hate everybody. Everyone sucks. You know, virtue signaling all over the place. Like, oh, you hurt that cat. I'm going to kill you. And they're in the health business. Complete psychopaths. Nurse Ratched has nothing on some of these folks. And they're supposed to be health in the health industry? I mean, everything's upside down right now. And that's why it is going to crash. And so we need to use our imagination in the best possible way of using faith in what can be. So an interesting story of what happened last night. Speaking of worry, it's funny, sometimes I'll worry about the dumbest stuff. I really do. You know, I'll get myself all up in a freaking, about something that I can't control it. And the thing is, if I gave it attention, it would just look like everyone else should give it attention too. So they think there must be something wrong. So it makes it even worse. And then really when the bad stuff happens, you're always really cool and calm and things end up working out. Like for instance, last night, you know, I had a lot of paintings up there at the park. And the hail started coming down hard, really, really hard. Now I could have panicked and freaked out and everything would have gotten destroyed. But I just systematically picked up my prints, put them in the bag. Everything was getting soaked. I'm talking, we had like 2 inches in like 5 minutes. It was so fast. But I didn't freak out. Just put the paintings in the corner, and I stood there in the rain for a minute and just surveyed my surroundings of like, what can I do next, calmly. And there was a really great Good Samaritan, a neighbor who I've never met before, pulled over, and he said, I'm sorry, I know you don't know me, but can I help you? And I was like, yes, help me get out of here. So we loaded up the paintings, and he drove me home, you know, and I looked like a wet rat, you know, just, man, soaked. We get everything back to the house. And then I look around and things weren't right. The windows were open, which never is open. Mom wasn't home. I'm ringing the doorbell. She didn't come to the door. Go around back door's unlocked. That never happens. Windows were open. Never happens if she's gone. Her sunglasses were on the table. That never happens if she's gone. All these different clues. So I'm running around the house thinking, oh my gosh, did she fall? And there's the worry. The funny thing is, I never thought of worrying about my paintings. Isn't that interesting? You know, here was a real action of this rain and this hail coming down. And I was in the mode of, okay, how can I get out of this? And I have to stay calm. And it worked out. And I was at peace with everything. And I met actually a new friend, which was really cool. But as soon as I got home and things didn't make sense to me, boom, there goes the worry. What happened to mom? Where's mom? And I mean, it was one of those gut-wrenching fears. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced, I'm sure some of you have experienced this, just like, my world is about to go upside down if this person isn't here anymore. And I mean, 5 minutes turned into a half hour of not knowing where my mother was. And everything was wrong. Like, clearly something was wrong, because everything the way she would normally have the house if she left wasn't right. I had my neighbors looking for her. You know, I'm on Facebook being like, hey, everybody, rapture check. Did people go to heaven? Because I don't know where my mom is. Like, seriously, this is weird. And I was really scared. I mean, paralyzingly fearful of, like, what is going on. So 45 minutes later, she comes walking in the door, soaked like a little mouse, holding 3 umbrellas and 4 plastic bags. She had walked by herself in the rain up to the park to try to help me make sure the paintings didn't get ruined. I know. And it's like, okay, I really appreciate that that's what you want to do, but that was terrifying, and don't do that, Mom. You can't, you know, like, stay at home. Everything will be okay. But her imagination, let's go back to imagination and worry and faith and fear. She was laughing. I'm like, here I am, I'm in worry mode. So I'm like having to kind of decompress from having a panic attack that I didn't know where she was. And she's laughing, thinking it was the craziest story in the world. And that's the difference between the difference of variations of imagination. Imagination, you can be at peace and you can think positive thoughts, you can think faith, you can think love, or you can think worry and fear. So compound that, and I mean, like, seriously, like, if I thought like that every single day, I would if I had that feeling on me every single day, and I translated everything in my life like that every day, I'd have a heart attack in like 2 years. I mean, like, that was such an insane emotion. And I think about what the media and certain culture changers love to constantly push with their stories of making people get into that space of fear and negative imagination, which is worry. Worry, fear, negativity, hate, you know, and then calling hate love. That's an interesting one. That's not true. You know, so that people are constantly in that space, and if we're in that space, everything breaks down, including our faith in money and our faith in each other. Is that what they really want? I mean, sometimes I think that is what they want. But if we understand that, if and when this bigger crash happens, we can remember how important it is to use our imaginations in love and faith and belief in each other, you know, and valuing each other, and what we can do for each other, you know, without exploitation. I hope that we're not so far down the messed up rabbit hole of bestial thinking that we can still try to value each other without complete exploitation. I mean, that's what sometimes I wonder about that, you know. But it's who you tune into. It's who and what you tune into. You know, it really is. And, you know, I think about, people will say to me over the years, you know, don't you freak out about, you know, how do you get your money? I'm like, what money? You know, I do a lot of this stuff based on faith. I really do. But it always seems to work out. And the most amazing people have come through the studio. I've met some of the most amazing people in my journey. Because, yeah, sometimes because if people don't understand, they'll judge, or they'll get the wrong impression, or whatnot. But they don't understand the magic behind living in faith and walking in faith with everything that you do. Really, really great stuff happens. You're going to be okay no matter what. And that's a really beautiful journey to know and to walk. So, you know, the next time you read on the Washington Podesta Post, and by the way, just so you know, Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, okay, you know this, he has a $600 million contract with the CIA. No collusion there as far as getting out information or twisting information to get a certain propaganda narrative from the deep state. And they hired John Podesta to be their key guy. And don't tell me that he's just a journalist. So, you know, any story that you hear or any spin on facts, a perspective that you hear, keep that in mind. The second wealthiest man in the world owns that paper, has been given $600 million from the CIA, and you think you're going to get the truth? You think you're going to get it? You think they're not going to spin it? I mean, come on. Come on. Here's an interesting thing that you guys can do. The next time you read an article from any of the major news sources, Google the author's information. There's been an interesting thing about some of these folks just being shadows. They have surnames. It's very, very bizarre. It's getting really, really weird. So next time you decide to trust a stranger to create a negative imagination in your head, because that's what they're doing. When you read something or you hear if you read something in the paper, or you see something on television, it casts a spell. It has you go into a certain realm of understanding or reality for it, and just know that. And next time someone wants to make you feel fearful or paranoid or thinking that the negative, keep that in mind. You know, I mean, granted, if they're telling you a story that the story itself is just gnarly, you know, there are criminals in this world, but if they're doing emotional triggering, just know that, and 9 times out of 10, they're playing some kind of game, and that creates negative imagination en masse. And if en masse everyone has negative imagination, we're going to create a pretty nasty world for each other. So I'd like to think that we can not do that. That'd be great. So anyway, also tonight Tim Schwartz did a lecture in Minnesota talking about, I guess, a shoot-off of this topic as well, talking about exiting banks. You know, it'd be amazing if everyone just took their money out of their bank. If you've got a big bank, if you've got, you know, your money in a big bank account, but you don't like what's going on in the world, well, take your money out, put it in a credit union. That's a huge way to change things. Huge way. Other little things. If you think that everyone hates everybody, just say hello to people on the street. Just be nice. Be kind. Be open. You'd be surprised how much that changes other people's perspectives on the world. Little things like that. It doesn't cost any money. But that you use your imagination. So get off your cell phone and look at somebody in the eye and show them that they matter. Even for a second. That'd be kind of cool. Alright, so I think I'm going to maybe read a little bit and enjoy this night because it's really pretty out. Do some painting. And I hope you guys have a really, really good night. So I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.